That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Amanda, the directorial debut of Carolina Cavalli, which premiered at the 2022 Venice Film Festival in the Horizons Extra sidebar. It is being released courtesy of Oscilloscope on July 7th, 2023.
Directorial debut.
I always want to say that name like Yves Montand chasing around Marilyn Monroe in Let's Make Love.
Oh.
And he's like, Amanda.
The story, Amanda, 24, lives mostly isolated and has never had any friends, even if it's the thing she wants the most. Amanda chooses her new mission as to convince her childhood friend to believe that they are still best friends. This must have been translated from another language.
Most likely.
I thought this was a very interesting movie.
It was a very assured debut. We'll talk more about it, but I enjoyed it. It reminded me of kind of a new wave, maybe like a French new wave entry, because the main character reminded me of this, like a drifter played by Jean-Pierre Léaud, where it's like frustrating to watch, but also kind of entertaining to see this 20-something discover realities of the world.
So what do we know about Amanda? So her parents have money, it would seem, or her family does. They own a chain of pharmacies. They live in a beautiful, what looks like a mansion. We know that when she was younger, maybe like 10 or 11, she attempted suicide by drowning herself in the family pool.
Which we get, that's kind of the opening scene, but we're kind of unclear about what happened at that point.
Right. We don't learn what happened in the pool until close to the end of the film. So after that attempt, the family moves to a different city. But it's important to know that when Amanda was younger, before the incident in the pool, she had a little friend named Rebecca, who's the daughter of the mom's best friend. So we meet Amanda when she's 24, and she doesn't have any friends. It would seem like her only friend is like the housekeeper.
Who's been told to distance herself. Judy's been told to lay off.
The housekeeper was told to leave her alone so she could make her own damn friends. So the bulk of the film is Amanda trying to figure that out. And it's via like romantic encounters, random encounters with people, and then mainly reuniting with Rebecca.
Yes, she gets it stuck in her head that they were friends as children before the incident and the family moved away, and so she tries to ingratiate herself upon Viola, the mother, played by Giovanna Mezzogiorno, who's a very notable Italian actress, and Rebecca.
So she strong arms her way into Rebecca's life, and they spend some time together. They really don't seem like they connect very well, but things come to a head when a therapist is brought in because Rebecca seems to be depressed.
Yes, we're told she was once kind of a youth athlete who was good at everything and has since kind of recused herself from the world and won't leave her room.
Yeah, she won't leave her bedroom. So the therapist says to the mother, you shouldn't allow Amanda to hang out with Rebecca.
Because she has some borderline personality traits that aren't good for
Bad
Rebecca.
influence. So of course Rebecca gets upset. Okay, so during this time when they're apart, Amanda gets a job at like an electronics store, which we can get to. But she had also met this guy earlier on in the film who she thinks she liked. And on that same night she met him, there was some other girl sort of hanging around. So at a point, that guy tells Amanda, listen, I know you like me in a romantic way, but I'm not feeling you like that. Actually, I'm kind of seeing that other girl I met the night I met you. So Amanda's upset. And she tells Rebecca this. So one day while Amanda's at work at the electronics store, Rebecca's mom shows up and says, I think my daughter really misses you and you should try to see her. So Amanda's like, oh, I'll come over. And the mom's like, no, don't do that, but maybe the two of you can meet in public. So Amanda says, oh, I go to the same theater every night, so let her know that. And then we see that Amanda keeps buying an extra ticket at the movie theater, hoping that Rebecca will show up, but she doesn't. But one day, that guy who kind of dissed Amanda shows up at her apartment mad, talking about, you crashed my party and set off a bunch of fireworks.
And now Matilda has PTSD.
And now my new girlfriend is, yeah. And Amanda's like, no, I didn't. But then she gets the bright idea, oh, let me go find Rebecca. So she does. And Rebecca's like, yeah, I did it. It's also important to know at a point, Amanda takes a horse.
Yeah, there's this horse that she keeps going to feed. That's kind of it's old, decrepit. It's kind of put out to pasture. As they say, it's not good for riding anymore, and it's kind of neglected, or so she feels, and she takes it upon herself to feed it sugar cereal. But yeah, she abducts that horse and drops it off at Rebecca and Viola's house.
So we find out when Rebecca went to that party to crash it and set off the fireworks, Rebecca doesn't know how to drive. So she rode this horse to the party, and then the fireworks scared the horse away. So the final sort of shot of the film is Rebecca and Amanda walking down the road to go look for this horse, the end. Mm-hmm. I think as a conversation piece, this film is very effective. And to me, what the story meant was how people sort of take a passive, like, position in their lives and sort of witness their unhappiness, but don't actually, like, try to do anything.
Especially as, you know, early 20-somethings. Like, I thought it's interesting that they classify Amanda as having, like, the therapist tells her she has borderline personality traits. It's like, well, technically at a point we're all a little bit borderline until we kind of embrace what our persona or our personality is, right. Which, you know.
And I really like that we see her feel that way in sort of every aspect of her life. So with friendship, sex, romance, her career. So I feel like anyone could relate to this character.
Mm-hmm. And I find it interesting that she's kind of rejected, because her family owns a chain of pharmacies, and so they're quite well off, and she could easily work and make money, but she refuses to do so. In fact, she lives in this hotel around the corner from them that's a hovel.
That certainly her family's paying for.
That they are paying for, but she's just rejecting having any part of that. Like, she wants to find her own way, but has no idea how to do it.
So she says something really interesting at a point. She says that I could either live or die, or the third option. And she never defines what the third option is. But I think the third option is clear, which is that you can kind of just operate an idle.
Like, in a sense of limbo,
yeah.
Or purgatory even, or just complacency with not being unhappy. But of course, that's not sustainable. And I think immediately when she says that, I'm like, oh, that's a much better title for the film, is the third option.
Third option would have been a great title for the movie.
And I do really like Benedetta Porcaroli as Amanda and Galatéa Bellugi as Rebecca. I think they're both interesting, if not utterly. I don't know. As you kept saying, it's like they're not really enjoyable to watch because it's frustrating, but it also feels very realistic. And Benedetta reminded me a lot of somebody like an Evelyn Rachel Wood, or even Talia Ryder from Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. She has that kind of vibe about her that I did like.
At a point, Amanda moves in with Rebecca. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was interesting. So I think it's the story is very effective. I really like how the film was shot. We also see I don't know if this was a function of just like set design, like the resources they had, but in Rebecca's house, because it seems like her parents also have money because they live in this very beautiful modern home. But nothing is like, the home is empty, and it's just like there's a random couch. There are always books on the floor. Mm-hmm. Rebecca's bed is on the floor. There's nothing hanging on the walls, which are all concrete. And I thought that also, the vibe of...
It's like they're the living dead. They're living in a mausoleum, almost.
And that's how they act, Rebecca mm-hmm. and her mom. Like, they're sort of just stuck and idle. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was very effective.
I did like Giovanna Mezzogiorno as Rebecca's mother as well. I think she has some of the few more broadly comedic moments. Sure.
When Rebecca and Amanda have their falling out, Rebecca throws like a cup at Amanda and like busts her face up. I thought that was funny. And then when she walks out of the house, she just says like, oh, there's a horse.
She leaves that horse there.
I left a horse out front.
So she likes to go to the movies, obviously, this Cinematheque that shows all old films. But the only title we see is the first one where we see a lineup of people. And I think that's notable because it's Stanley Donen's Charade, or Charade, if you will, with Audrey Hepburn. Because it's kind of like that's how they're living. Their lives are a charade.
So because Amanda's so incapable of like making human connections, like she tries like a phone dating service.
That's
like the old school phone lines.
Mm-hmm. And she's receiving messages, but they're read out loud by the version of Siri or whatever that's on her phone, which in her profile name is Sexy Mama.
Sexy Mama. But then, so one way she's trying to make money, because she certainly can't have a job, is that she shops at a grocery store that has a points, like rewards program, and she's trying to earn enough points to redeem them for like a floor fan, like an oscillating floor fan, so that she can return it for the money. So she's going to the grocery store buying things she probably doesn't even need.
Not return it for the money, to pawn it off so she can make a profit. Just get a job, girl.
But you know what? I thought that was such a great, I guess, metaphor, because I feel like anyone can relate to aspects of her character, because we all have aspects where we're not sort of performing at the level we should be. But I can think of so many people who I've witnessed make so many excuses for why they can't take ownership or do what they need to do to get what they want. And it's very frustrating to witness someone say, well, I can't afford to do this. Okay, girl, but you also don't have a job, and you've been offered jobs and you refuse to stay there, or you don't have friends, but you don't try to social, go down the list. So I think it's very effective. But like you already alluded to, my biggest problem with the story is that, just like in real life, it's not really enjoyable to be around people like that. There's no color to the story. There are no moments of joy or humor or fear or anger. Like,
it's a bit dysthymic, isn't it?
Yeah. There's just like a general malaise to the entire thing that wasn't very enjoyable, and I would have liked
some ups and downs.
Just moments where we see her, what makes her happy, what scares her. She doesn't seem to. I mean, she's not afraid to not have a job. She's not afraid to be alone. Clearly,
well, that's part of the problem of her privilege that she's experienced as well. Is that she doesn't have to be afraid.
Well, we can assume that, which would make sense. But I think that could have been a way where maybe like there's a moment where her parents say they're going to cut her off, and so then she goes into a rage or something. I would have liked something else.
But she cuts herself, she does finally put the pedal to the metal. She has cut herself off, and that's why she does get a job.
Because she calls up like an electronics store asking how much can she get for this fan, because she finally does get it. And the person's explaining to her and says, just come down. And then we cut to the next scene where she's working there. And then all of a sudden she's very assertive with the client or the customer, trying to get them to buy something. I didn't quite get where that personality came from, because she reacts negatively to her sister, who's very judgmental of
her who's much older, which makes me think that Amanda was kind of maybe an accident and therefore a little bit neglected by her parents at this point, who are very set in their ways. And there's a side plot involving the sister has a small child of her own, Stella, who is fascinated with Jesus Christ as a figure, which alarms the family.
It would have been nice. I could see this being like a series where we focus on this young lady and how she's just kind of getting through life. The other thing is that everyone else in the movie is also kind of flat.
Sure.
Which I think is an accurate... It all makes sense to me, so I do think it's well done.
I think the script is really good. There's another line that I really liked where she has this realization, she feels things are starting to change, even though she's kind of aggressively placed herself in the orbit of Rebecca. But she says, maybe good things didn't happen to me because I had no one to tell them to, which I thought was interesting, which I think all relates to the kind of energy that you are putting out there, because she's going to all these raves, right? Where she also seems equally out of place, but it's clear that she's looking for something but doesn't know how to put her best foot forward.
Or maybe even what she's looking for.
Or what she wants.
What would you give this movie?
3 out of 5.
I would give it 3 out of 5 as well. Anything else?
No.
Hit the thanks button. Listen to our podcast. Bye.